There was a trend for nurses on their WhatsApp status, on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I guess, that a particular nurse went to write an Ielts General instead of Ielts Academic, and I was surprised. Anyway, good day everyone, and welcome back to Nurses Lecture Room YouTube channel. My name is Mercy Mary, popularly known as a nurse with the difference, and I make learning easy and accessible for all my students. Today, I'm going to be sharing with my viewers the difference between IELTS academic and IELTS general, so you know what to take, what you are going to take, instead of making the mistake of paying a huge amount of money for a particular exam you don't need. But before we go into details, if you are new on our YouTube channel, kindly click on the subscribe button, turn on the notification button so you don't miss out. For all my returning subscribers, this is me saying thank you. Let's go there. Alright, welcome back. Like I earlier said, today I'm going to be talking about the difference between IELTS General and IELTS Academic, so we don't make the mistake of taking the wrong one when we have a particular goal to meet. For those that have not watched our previous video on where I talk about NCLEX, OET, IELTS, CBT, and OSCE, I'll drop the link in the description box below so you know the meaning of these terms and what they can do and what they signify. For this particular video, I'm going to be explaining the difference between the general and the academic IELTS. So the first one, let's talk about the general. The general is an IELTS exam that tests a candidate's competencies in all areas, which is the listening, the speaking, the reading, and the writing. In IELTS academic, yes, they are testing your competencies in all areas, listening, reading, speaking, and writing, but they are testing it to know if you meet the English requirements of a particular professional body, if you meet the English requirements of a particular university. They are testing if you meet their English requirements. They know you are good in English, but they want to know how good you are. They want to know if you meet their standard, if you meet the requirements of that particular professional body. But in IELTS General, they believe, okay, you are from an English country, but let's just test you to know if you are good to go. But in academic, that is why the name implies academic. They are trying to see if you meet up with what they need, if you meet up with the proficiency, the English proficiency of that particular body you are trying to work with or study with. That is why different universities, different organizations, they have a particular band score you have to meet to be able to work effectively well as a nurse or to be able to study in that particular country. In IELTS General, the topics are based on general issues. They are based on common things you see around. But in IELTS Academic, they are talking about, you see research work, you see publications. It requires more critical thinking. It's more in-depth. It is more complicated than the IELTS General. So you know what you give to a master's student should be different from what you give to a kindergarten child. So that is why the IELTS General and the IELTS Academic are quite different. Then also, the IELTS Academic is more harder. It's more harder than the IELTS General. You know why it's more harder? This IELTS Academic, they believe you are, should I use the word academicians, if it's ever exists. They believe you are more intelligent, they believe you are more brilliant, so they have to test your knowledge to know if you meet up with the standard or requirements. So in terms of IELTS Academic, if you want to work as a nurse, if you want to work with a particular professional body, if you want to school, you want to go to the university or college outside your country, it's an English speaking country you are planning to go to, so you have to take this IELTS Academic for study and also to join a particular professional body. But if you want to just migrate to this English speaking country, the best exam to take is IELTS General. IELTS Academic, it's in IELTS Academic generally, in the tax one, they ask you to read, to give meanings to graphs. They talk about graphs, they talk about processes, they talk about map. But in Iels General, they just ask you to write a letter to a friend that speaks English. You can see, because they believe that even in your secondary school, you must have been taught how to write a letter. Dear Mercy, how are you doing? Hope you are fine. I'm coming to spend my holiday in your house. Just like that. They just want you in general, they ask you to write a letter. But in tax 2, you have a more complicated thing to think about. You have a graph, you have a map, and you have a process to write about. You have a process to interpret, you have a map to interpret, and you have a graph to interpret and write about. So just know that Ielts Academic is talking about academics generally. And Ielts General, if you want to migrate, you take Ielts General. But it's advisable before you take any Ielts exams, find out the required Ielts they need, because if you don't find out, you might end up writing Ielts Academic, which is much harder, but what they just need is Ielts General. Ielts Academic is majorly for professional bodies. There are some other works you can get that don't require Ielts Academic, but Ielts General. So just make sure you find out the one that is needed for that particular reason before you take the next step, so you don't take the step that is not nice and you start regretting, and there will be waste of funds, waste of resources, and all that. For the particular nurse that took Ielts General instead of Ielts Academic, we're sorry about that. So it is better to ask and get more information rather than doing everything in silence and don't ask questions. There are thousands and thousands and thousands and one benefits of asking questions rather than keeping quiet or searching the internet. Yeah, the internet is, if you don't want to ask questions, the internet is the best source these days to get a lot of information, so you can easily browse and find out more about the reason and what is required. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to share with a friend if you got value. For all my returning subscribers, this is me saying thank you. Bye, and see you in our next video. Love you.